guy, Romeo Doubs, homer pick. I had to do it. You know why I had to do it?
Why?
Because his dynasty ADP is out fucking rageous. He's the wide receiver 66 in consensus dynasty rankings over at Fantasy Pros. I love you, Fantasy Pros rankers, but what in the fuck are we doing here? Christian Watson, wide receiver 20. That's a little spicy for me. I'll be honest. I'm a little more timid about Christian Watson. It's probably where some of this is coming from. But Jaden Reed, rookie that was just drafted this year in the 3rd round, I believe, wide receiver 49. Then we've got Romeo Doubs sitting there, wide receiver 66. The next James Jones for the Green Bay Packers, just sitting there at wide receiver 66, as if he didn't, when healthy, become the security blanket that wasn't named Alan Lazard for a very finicky Aaron Rodgers. I know there's some caveats in there, but for a rookie to come in and do that, I understand how decimated the depth chart was last year. But I mean, come on. If Sammy Watkins can't take targets away from Romeo Doubs, who can? Am I right? But seriously, Romeo Doubs at wide receiver 66, there's just as good of an outcome. And I've said this about Jaden Reed. I've said it about Christian Watson. Just as good of an outcome where he is the number 1 receiver on the team in terms of targets at the end of this season. And that puts a much different path forward for his dynasty value if that ends up being the case. Christian Watson absolutely could be that guy. Sure he could. So could Jaden Reed. But when there's this many question marks around a team, and when you've seen a guy like this flash that talent, and he did look so consistent and reliable. Like he looked, again, James Jones kind of reliable last year. I'm going to be betting on that at wide receiver 66 a million times over.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this offense really plays out. I think Christian Watson at 20, that's a little spicy. I don't think that's so far out of the realm. I think he could put up those numbers, and return that value. Yeah. It's definitely possible, especially if he, takes another step forward this year, building off of last season. But yeah, with Doubs too, I mean, he flashed, in his limited playing time. We've already heard the reports out of camp that, Doubs is Love's guy right now and who he goes to the most. So if that trend continues here as training camp really kicks off and we see it in the preseason games, maybe that's something to really keep an eye on. And like you said, strike before the iron is hot and get a hell of a value on him.
Yeah. And when we talked, I think it was last week when I brought up my many drunk trades, we had determined that you had thought like getting him for a 2nd round pick made a ton of sense. And I said, I don't know if the dynasty world considers him worth a 2nd round pick, which is why his ADP is so suppressed right now. So again, you probably don't even have to spend that to get him. You could send 2 3rd round picks for Romeo Doubs. What are you going to do with those thirds? You're just going to hoard them like a little 3rd round piggy? Just spend them on Romeo Doubs and then feast later.